Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 200 Fast, 200 Forever. F9 Director's Cut, 5th Gear. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode's brought to you by Jacob Long, Esquire, criminal and traffic law attorney. Having defended thousands of cases, the law office of Jacob Long brings extensive experience, professionalism, and vigor to each and every case. Shout out to Jacob Long.
Well, shout out to Jacob Long, and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever, episode 200. Unlike episode 100, we didn't have a special thing planned, but we do have superfan Heather Antos joining us to talk about her favorite film franchise.
I like that moniker a lot.
She loves these movies more than life itself. She is thrilled to talk about these movies. She liked it when we saw it with her. So,
yeah.
We'll find out. We will find out how this goes. But Joe, before we talk to Heather, actually, before we even talk about this, we are going to do because now available on digital is the F9 Director's Cut with 7 minutes of more stuff.
Yep.
We're not going to bore Heather with all that because I'm sure she's going to maybe notice some stuff, but also she hasn't seen this movie 5 times in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that in the top half. I think right before the minute, we'll do on the streets and do that. But before we get there, extracurricular activities. What have you been up to?
A ton, actually. First thing that I want to talk to you about that I know that you did too is saw Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, yep. Mm-hmm.
And it was fucking awesome.
It was great.
Way better than I even imagined it would be. I was not prepared for how good it was. Rachel and I loved it. I'm usually I've grumbled on here before mildly about how Awkwafina's kind of in everything, and sometimes her personality is just a little big for the place that she's in. She did great. I really liked it. No problems at all, and the movie was great. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. It's a lot of fun, and I really liked it.
I think the first hour is one of the best hours of any MCU movie, and then the end gets into the CGI kind of, computer generated nonsense that they all kind of get into, which I don't mind, but when the first hour is kind of as grounded and as good as it is, I'm just kind of give me more of that, you know what I mean? But
it needed to get there, but just for the story and the progression of the stories, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm glad that you liked it too, because I know that you haven't been as riding high as... Well,
mostly because this is sort of standalone in a way that feels good that it's standalone. I've been complaining that there isn't really a mission or purpose, but this is just we have a story to tell here. We're going to tell this story as opposed to we have Black Widow because we're going to do Black Widow and we should have done Black Widow 4 or 5 years ago, but now we're doing it now, so enjoy it or whatever, right?
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Glad you liked that. What else have I been up to? We had a pretty chill weekend. It was Labor Day weekend. Rachel made a homemade lasagna, homemade noodles, homemade sauce from tomatoes in the garden. Okay. Incredible. It was so fucking good.
Awesome. Does she do a meat lasagna or a cheese lasagna?
Meat and cheese.
Okay.
Meat, yeah. Very, very good. So we've been eating that. Another movie that we watched that is very appropriate for today is we watched Vacation Friends on Hulu.
I did not see that. I've been meaning to. That is with John Cena. Is that right?
It's with John Cena and Little Rel. It's a blast in the sense that it's just a dumb comedy. I described it as kind of having a Adam Sandler-y kind of feel.
Sure, okay.
You know what I mean? In the sense that nothing really matters, but it's just a dumb comedy. It's a little bit more explicit than the Sandler ones get, but overall it was a lot of fun.
Right, the lead woman, the Meredith Hagner, who plays in the movie Kyla, I love. She was in a short film called not Quality Balls, that's a different thing. Club Policy, which I saw at Fantastic Fest. And it was super funny and super weird, and she was great. And then she was in Search Party. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Meredith Hagner.
Yeah. The movie is exactly what you kind of would expect, but at the same time, kind of interesting and surprising. There's a lot of fake outs that they're leading you one very obvious direction, and then it's nope, just obviously it's not that. And you're okay, good. If you want an hour and a half of or maybe an hour and 40 of just a dumb comedy, it's great. We really, really enjoyed it.
The third most popular review on Letterboxd is, it's funny how this movie's supposed to be about two couples, yet there are only 3 people, because you can't see one of them. So. He doesn't say that, but just it ends with, yet there are only 3 people.
Yeah, perfect. But it's good, and it has like that The Rock vibe where like you know exactly what character John Cena is playing because he kind of
Sure.
has to
Yep.
play like this character. Check
Cool.
that out if you didn't. I think it's a good like weekend night movie. We watched like half of it in the hot tub and then half of it inside, and it was like perfect. Yeah, then we had just like a chill weekend. I was like over people because like I've spent last weekend with Rachel's parents and their family, and then my sister and her boyfriend were visiting, and I just like needed a weekend to just like not
Sure.
see anyone. So that's what I did, and then like Monday, Rachel and I did like a full brain reset, and we watched 7 hours of Seven Worlds, One Planet, Seven Worlds, One Continent, or something like that. Whatever David Attenborough animal documentaries, and I felt great on Tuesday. So now I'm back to Earth and having fun. So
Cool.
that was about it. How about you?
Well, we weathered the hurricane. Did you guys get hit with a hurricane or not really?
Not really at all. I mean, like there was some rain, but nothing
Oh,
like
because New
flooding or
Jersey
death. Yeah.
got rocked, like real bad, to the point where I got no water damage, which I am so thankful
Bless
for.
you. I'm glad
But
for
a
you.
block or two from me in 2 different directions and 3 blocks in a different direction were all under like severe, like multiple feet of water. A house in my town exploded.
That's insane. Yeah, I saw the
The
article.
Yankees minor league, the AA team, the Somerset Patriots, which is nearby, their entire stadium flooded up to like probably the 2nd level.
That was insane. That picture, it's
Crazy.
like the whole first deck
Yeah.
of the field is just covered like insane. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of people just like driving around and like running around and walking around or whatever in town. It's so sad to see like, basically entire basements worth of stuff just out on the curb, like because it's damaged. They have to get throw it out.
Yeah.
It's awful. But again, I didn't have any damage here. I was so thankful. I mean, I was saying to you that like there is no reason to think like there are towns nearby where I live where you need flood insurance because they're near
Yep.
a river or whatever. And
Mhm.
my realtor is like, even if you don't care, like if you're okay paying the flood insurance or whatever, I would recommend you not buy a house here because other people care and they're not going to want to buy this house. Like you're going to scare off potential buyers just because you're in a flood zone. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we didn't even like look in those places. But where I am, there's like this little lazy little creek river, not even a river. River's way too strong of a word. Like a creek that just runs through my town. And like that was what did all of this. And I'm sort of near it, but I wouldn't even think that like where the places that got all this flooding, it was so deep water that a fire truck that was trying to rescue people or whatever, just, help, got stranded. Like it was
That's
halfway up the
insane.
fire truck, right? So like
Yeah.
it was crazy. So that was
Glad you're
Wednesday.
okay.
Thankfully, yeah, a couple days later, the water at least had, receded. There's still like work to be done and everything like that. And you go around, there's still stuff everywhere. Like, but there's that. Then on Saturday, I went to patron and friend of the show, Christian Larson. He had a Labor Day barbecue up
How
in New
was
York.
it?
It was good. So here's a fun story, which I don't think he'll mind telling because it was not his fault.
'Kay.
But I get there, and my friend Scully, who has grilled at my barbecues, my
Yep.
multiple night barbecues, he was grilling there. He's got the charcoal grill going, and it smells great. And I go inside, and he was like ready for the meat, and he's like, I just need somebody to prep the burger. So like I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I don't mind doing that. So I'm taking the meat and I'm salting and peppering and like shaping it and whatever. And then all of a sudden, the fire alarm goes off. And Larson lives in a
Okay.
town in like upstate New York, and he lives above a restaurant. And so it's a
Okay.
it's a great little town. He's we joke that he like is mayor of the town. Like I think he
Yeah.
thought
Yeah,
about
he's-
running for office, but like he actually he's taking it and making it his own, and he's doing a great job up there. The fire alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh, this is so loud because like it's a kind of like an industrial fire alarm, and they can't shut it off. And what had happened was the grill, they used like starters or whatever to like get the charcoal going, and those started smoking, and it just triggered the fire alarm. So everybody clears out. I'm in the kitchen where it's not as loud, so I don't know how loud this alarm is, but I'm just like doing my thing. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I go out to the main room, like the main area where everybody was. I'm like, oh, it's so loud out here. But the alarm goes off for like 10 minutes. The fire department has to come to
Shut it
turn it
off.
off. The restaurant downstairs had to clear out for safety reasons. This is like 10 minutes after I get there. So I'm like, oh, okay. Good timing, I guess. Because like it's the kind of thing where it's just like, oh yeah, the fire alarm, went off. I'd be like, oh, weird, okay. But like I was there, I was just like, oh, huh. And like his landlord called. He's just like, you want to explain what's going on? And he like explains, oh, he's like, don't worry, that's not your fault. No harm, no foul, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was just I didn't even like. There wasn't smoke. Like, sometimes when you're like, oh god, or even like if you're frying something in the kitchen,
Yep.
and it starts to get smoky, you're like, oh, this could be bad. Like, I didn't see any of that. It was just like it went to the wrong place at the wrong time or whatever. But it's not fun until the fire department shows up and
Exactly.
yeah,
Party was too hot to handle.
Too hot to handle, truly. But it was nice seeing Larson, and Mike Manzi was there, resident historian Mike Manzi.
Cool.
Their significant others, and Scully was there, and some other friends. There are people that I'd met for the first time. So yeah, it was a nice trip, and the drive to get to his place is beautiful. Like, there's just overlooking this scenic water and everything, which is great. Bob came over on Sunday. We did some lottery pod stuff, which was good.
Nice.
And then on Monday, I sort of did not like a brain reset like you, but I didn't talk to anybody. I just watched a whole bunch of TV, and I started. So there is. Every year on Letterboxd, there is this challenge called Hooptober, because there's a guy, Toby Hooper, I think probably best known for making Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But 7 years ago, this guy started this challenge. Now this is the 8th year of it. And he puts together a list of requirements. And his goal every year was to watch 31 horror movies in October. And they all satisfy these different requirements. He's like, but with work, I know that's not necessarily feasible, so it's going to be 31 in 45 days or whatever, starting on September 15th. So basically a month and a half to watch 31 movies.
On Maria's birthday. Okay.
Shout out Maria.
Yeah, shout out Maria.
But I had already wanted to start watching some of these, and I was going to watch some of them this past weekend or whatever.
You were doing, what were they? Nightmare...
Friday the 13th. Yeah,
Friday the 13th. Not Nightmare.
And I had put together a list of other things that I wanted to see and whatever, and so I was like, I'm just going to go above and beyond. I don't think I'm going to finish this, but I have a list of 56, which is too many. But I've watched one so far. I'm going to watch another one tonight. But here are the rules.
Please tell me, because I'm curious, because we love scary movies in October. I'm definitely down. Is it like a list, or does it just have to fit these requirements? Like,
no, you can pick whatever movies you want. They have to be new. They have to be movies that are new to you. But like, if there's one thing that satisfies like 5 or 6 of these things, that's fine. So
okay, cool.
You have to watch movies from 6 countries.
Okay.
Which I have like 7 or 8 on here. 8 decades, which I think I have like 9 maybe. 2 folk horror movies, which is something
what does that mean?
It's hard to describe, and that's one of the things that like I had to look up, and I had to find a list on Letterboxd. But it's like kind of like woodsy, like Midsummer, Blair Witch, The Witch, like stuff like that, like kind of either New Englandy sort of thing, or like witches stuff, or just kind of the occult, that kind of thing. So 2 of those, 4 films from 1981 because it's 40 years ago, 2 films from your birth year, 2 haunted house films. The worst part 2 that you haven't seen and can access. So I found Birdemic 2. I can watch Birdemic 2, which is apparently atrocious because the first one was real bad. So that's on here. 1 film set in the woods. 1 kaiju or Kong film, so like a giant creature. 2 Hammer films, so the studio Hammer. 3 films of the person of color as director or lead. And then 3 Asian horror films in addition to the one above. And then 1 Toby Hooper film, because there must always be a Toby Hooper film. So I have 56 on here that I'm very excited. And so, like, what's cool is, like, you can add tags and whatever. And, like, the Letterboxd community is a bunch of just film nerds and whatever. And so people are going around there liking things and whatever. But I got 2 comments on this list already. One of which said, because the first movie I picked was this movie, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which I think is the movie or the short or whatever that inspired Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in Disney World. But it's just like a cartoon, like it's a Disney cartoon, but the genre is horror. So I don't know how it's horror, but this guy was like, your banner image caught me off guard, and I love that. Great Disney short to add to your list. Love it. Lots of fun stuff on here. Enjoy. And then someone else said, one of the most fun and iconic, shout out Brian Rodriguez, lists I've seen after perusing hundreds in the past week. Have a wonderful time this season. I'll look for you out there to keep tabs on your reviews.
Very cool.
It doesn't seem like something that he would say on everything. Like, so consider the thing to keep in mind is that considering how much I've seen across the board and everything, there's so much that I have not seen. So this is going to check off a lot of boxes. So I'm very excited for this.
Fun. That sounds awesome.
But yeah, Hooptober Ocho is what they're calling this year. So Toby Hooper, Hooper, October, whatever. So yeah,
cool.
And there was something else. Oh, the only other thing. It's not something really I did, but I think I've talked on here about, lawn care, which is, every homeowner's favorite and least favorite thing in the world.
I hate lawns so much, but go ahead.
And so I have a company that, like, sprays for weeds. Like, they come out, like, 6 times a year or whatever, and like, they do, like, lawn treatments or whatever. And they paid them to do this thing called core aeration. I think we've talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it on
Yeah,
the
you
air.
said like
but
wait. You said wait on it, or
Yes.
they told you to like to
Yes.
do it next spring or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's an annual thing that actually they just did this week. But basically what core aeration is, like, they just go and they just dig up your lawn. Like, they have this thing that has, like, it pulls out, like, a lot of these, like, plugs of, what they call plugs of dirt. And then, like, you're basically supposed to immediately seed and then water your stuff. So that was 2 days ago, or yesterday, I guess.
Yeah.
So today is day 2 of watering. But I hope that this takes, because, like, the good thing, I guess, is that my lawn is healthier than it was before I started paying this company, but like
Looks
it looks
patchy.
worse.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
all the stuff that like made it look like lawn was weeds that they got rid of. So
Okay.
hopefully this will fill it in with like actual good real grass.
That's cool.
So 2 or 3 times a day I'm going outside and I'm like I'm just, I have sprinklers on or whatever, so I'll turn those on for 15, 20 minutes at a time, like 2 or 3 times a day, and just do that thing. But like, man, like my lawn looks bad right now. It just
You
looks
have
like
a patchy beard of lawn.
it's a patchy beard, and it's also like there's like little pock marks everywhere because like it's all just the core aeration. So it's crazy. But like I knew that's what it was gonna be like,
Yep.
and yet it still looks insane, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
You'll
But
be
it's just
good in a
fine.
couple days though. That'll be cool.
But that's everything I've got extracurricular activity wise. We have a Patreon page, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleiman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke Hayden, Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, and Jessica Collins, aka Montez. Thank you all so much for supporting us at the $5 a month level or above. Bonus episode out since last episode. You and me spoke to fan favorite Garrett Smith about Speed Racer.
Which was a great
And
movie.
Racer
and a great
Trash.
Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very
it
fun
was.
episode.
Garrett's great, man. I feel like he's just such an awesome dude.
Yeah. And he also brought the wisdom about the whole Racer Trash movement and stuff like that, which is on Twitch. So
Yep.
very cool episode. I think one of our I like the Patreon episodes just because like it's more the old school thing we used to do instead of all this nonsense up front.
Yeah.
Which I know some people prefer. Like I know Justin likes it better than movie conversations, but like I kind of like just doing the movie thing, and I think they're fun. And
Yeah,
plus,
we also,
having
like-
a guest or whatever. Yeah.
And we don't have like a real direction. I mean, not that we ever do, but like on the Patreon ones, they're always just like they just wander, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which is fun.
So toofast2forever.com for that, for swag and merchandise. Lap 10 coming up in a handful of weeks. I think like 8 or 9 weeks starting maybe. So if you want to get a pick in there,
What's that, Thanksgiving?
toofast2forever.com for that. The first episode,
Around Thanksgiving, it sounds like.
yeah, November 23rd. I think it's probably the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, kicks off Lap 10. Yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
The patrons know the theme for Lap 10. You can too at toofast2forever.com. We also have an email address, family@cageclub.me, and I don't think we have any emails today, which is sort of surprising. The mailbag's been a little quieter. I think our mailman has been taking the summer off, maybe, but
He's
I do have...
He's in the island with Brian. He's on
San Emilio Island with Kyle and Brian.
Yeah.
But we do have one thing. So Reaction Rocket, who we've talked about on here a couple times before.
Yes.
Quote tweeted our episode, or our tweet. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. Quote tweeted our tweet about Tokyo Drift and said, "In my head canon, Mr. Nobody is old Navy buddies with Sean's dad. This would explain his dad's sudden change of heart. Nobody assured him Sean would be safe, but that he needed Sean to race TK in order to distract from the op that Nobody and Han were running. Sean was never in danger." And that's so simple and so cool.
It is.
so smart. And I was just like, oh, we didn't think of anything anywhere near as cool as this.
Yeah, we don't know for sure that Mr. Nobody was in the Navy, but being high up in government or super governmental operations, like, it doesn't not make sense either, right? So,
Yeah.
and they're about the same age, right? Like, they could know each other. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We did kind of clear up after watching this one today that, like, I think that what we were talking about last time we talked about this movie, that, like, there had to be a point where Han had Elle and was also hanging out with Sean.
I think so.
Because we see that, like, Han does the job, and then to like Shaw is coming for him, and Mr. Nobody's like, okay, we can use this as an excuse to tuck Han under the rug, sweep him under the rug, and pretend he's dead, at which point he already had Elle. Because we had, like, kind of like a mini, like, we were, like, trying to figure out what order this came in. Cause
Well, yeah, so here's where there's a wrinkle, possibly, is that if Elle is a secret to everyone but Han,
yes,
it's okay. But if other people, like if Sean knows about Elle, then when Han gets killed, at some point, Sean should be like, Well, where's Elle? Who's taking care of
No,
Elle?
nobody knows about Elle for sure. It's
So
like,
she's like a real secret under the rug, whatever.
yes, but Han definitely is like supposedly taking care of her, but like maybe Mr. Nobody's taking care of her too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like kind of like a
Sure.
tag team. She's like in, the care of the agency type
So
situation.
now, if we can't get if Gal Gadot is too big of a star to have our Han Giselle spinoff, I want a Han, Mr. Nobody, My Two Dads with them and Elle.
That would be fun. Like them just doing like wacky hydro, like kind of like I'm imagining it like this, but I don't know if you'll imagine it like this, but like parts of WandaVision where it's like wacky kids,
Yeah,
like
yeah, for
those
sure.
kind of things. But yeah.
Yeah, like classic 80s sitcom
Yes.
with them all like age now, and she's supposed to be playing like a 12-year-old, but she's like 20 or whatever, and they're, who knows? Age doesn't really matter. Just, I don't know.
Age is nothing but a number, bro.
Give me that thing. It'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, one other thing, this is not really, it doesn't belong anywhere else, but Facebook, well, thank you, Reaction Rocket, for number one, for tweeting that, because that was
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
a great thought.
But the Facebook thing, apparently we can have, like, our Facebook, the Facebook fan page is going to have our podcast on there. So, like, if you'd rather listen on Facebook, probably not, then wherever you are, you can do that now. But that we set that up, so we'll see how that I have no idea how it's going to display. But
Did you see the post? There was a couple.
no, I didn't. Let me take a look.
There's been like a couple of the recent ones, and like it's not formatted perfectly. I don't know how much it's gonna drive you crazy, but it's pretty good.
Joe, on the streets, news about the Fast and Furious. Anything you have seen about the franchise?
Extended edition is out now. I saw
Yep.
commercials for it today. That's what I saw.
Anything else? Because I don't think I have.
No, that was it. Like as I turned off the extended edition, Rachel put on like SVU on USA, and like the first commercial we got was I was like my brain almost like freaked out because I like heard this Fast and the Furious music. I was like, didn't we just turn this off? And I look up and it's like new extended edition director's cut out now, and I was like, oh okay.
Oh, here we go. Now, okay, I see the podcast on mobile. There's a new season of Spy Racers on Netflix.
Yes.
I saw them all. There's a tab that says podcasts on mobile.
Oh okay, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It'll be there. We'll see how it goes in real time.
Well, it gives them like the real dates that they came out and stuff too. Very cool. Okay, yeah, there's a podcast tab on mobile. There you go.
Let's talk about the F9 director's cut. 7 more minutes.
Yes.
So the tricky thing that you and I were talking about, which I think is understandable, because I think I've had this experience before, is that like stuff that I don't think is actually new, my brain thinks is new because I haven't. I'm just like, is this new, or am I just not remembering it?
Because I'm watching with a more watchful eye for new
Yep.
things. So yes, there was things that I thought perhaps were new, or just like one or two sentences, one or two words in places
Right.
that felt like they were new. I can't confirm or deny if they are. One of them we both thought. So
Yes. The first official news scene. Did you write things down? Like, do you have
Yes.
notes on all of them? Okay. So
I mean,
if
as much as
Right.
I saw that was new and I knew was new or thought was new.
So if I skip one, call it out, we'll go back to it.
Okay.
But the first one that I have is the conversation that we talked about last time, where Dom calls Mia.
Well, I think that there's one before that.
Oh, what is it?
And I'm not sure that in the very first opening scene, that's the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
In this version, I don't know if it was in the original version, they talk about an oil slick on the turn. Dom's dad pushes Kenny Linder into that oil slick, and that's why Kenny Linder retaliates and comes after Dom's dad. And I don't think that was explained in the first preview. I don't remember
Okay,
it.
because I also had a note there that I didn't know if we got in the original. And again, both of these things, there might be like, yeah, they're in the
Yeah,
original.
you guys are
But
fucking idiots. Yeah, exactly.
there's a line in here about like the dad, like Dom's dad being ahead in the season standings and how he doesn't need to push it, but like he still wants to get back out there. Like, I don't remember that either.
That kind of felt more familiar than the oil slick part because like we definitely see Kenny Linder come after Dom's dad, but this kind of gives him a reason for it.
Sure.
Which would change how you feel about that scene, right? So like that's why I noticed
Okay.
it. So I was like, this feels different because he's like, oh, Dom's dad pushes him through the oil slick.
Right.
Kenny Linder hits a wall and then is like, well, fuck that dude, and goes after him, which
Right.
is much different than just like him coming after Dom's dad just because he's angry and just kills him, right?
And that also kind of complicates the whole, like, did Jacob sabotage things? Like, who
Yes,
actually is at fault
exactly.
and whatever. So, yeah.
It makes
Okay.
it way more convoluted. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think that was in the original. It's something that I didn't remember either way, but it makes stuff more convoluted, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. But that was
Sure.
the first thing that I thought is different.
So then it's the scene. Then the next new one that I think is
Yes.
officially firmly
Yes.
new is when Mia
Yes.
comes over. But we see a little bit before that, which is when Dom is looking at the tablet of the footage that Mr. Nobody sent, and he like enhances the background. He sees the cross or whatever. He calls Mia, which we didn't see. He says, "Mia, it's Dom. I need a favor." So then she
Yes.
shows up. It ends with the same way that the clip that we watched ends. Dom, what happened? Something I hope I'm wrong about. Do we know what he's talking about? What he's wrong about?
He sees the chain, the cross,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, Jacob's back." He just doesn't want to tell Mia that he thinks Jacob's back.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
he says
Yeah.
something I think happened that I want to be wrong about, like that Jacob was involved in this thing.
Right. Okay.
That's how I took it, at least.
But that, we don't need to go too far in detail on that because we talked about that one
Yeah.
last time. Then I had another one where I'm not sure if the scene with Kenny Linder is longer because he says, "At least I'm alive, asshole," and I don't remember that line.
I don't remember. I didn't have any until they're about to walk into Mr. Nobody's lair.
Okay.
So
He says, it's the scene where I think that he beats him, maybe, but he says, like, "At least I'm alive, asshole," which feels like a very strong, like a line that I would have remembered, but again, maybe not. I don't know.
maybe, yeah, that I can't tell you either way on that one.
Then the next one that I have is Tej and Ramsey and the outdated tech. Do you have something before that, or is that the next
I
one you have?
do. As they're walking in through the tunnels, Tyrese says, "If a Ninja Turtle pops out of here, like I'm gonna freak out."
No, that was in the movie because we were like,
Okay.
"Oh, Wes."
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
then that was in the movie. So yes. Then the next one is the outdated tech quiz. Yes.
Yeah, and Tej quizzing Ramsey on all the outdated tech, and she's like, "This is this, this is this, this is a floppy disk, this is that." And
Rotary
he goes, "What's
phone.
what's your mama's phone number?" And she can't answer, which I don't know what the point of that is. Like, this is one where I'm
She's so
like,
young. He's saying that like I'm older than you in this game, and the ultimate
Okay.
thing is that kids don't know their mom's phone number because they've never had to type like to dial it.
yeah, but I guess I just don't understand like the full purpose of this scene because it's kind of
It's
flirty,
stupid.
but not really.
Yeah.
And then Roman comes in and clears his throat, like, "Hope I'm not interrupting anything" or whatever. But like, it's not flirty. Like, it feels like it could be or should be, but I don't know if it's a lack of chemistry or just like the scene is weird. But like, I understand why this was cut, and then that's when they go into like the Romans "Are we invincible" scene.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, you're right. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with this. I can see why it was cut. It just doesn't
Right.
make any sense either way. Like it's just okay. He's like, I'm older in the game of hacking than you, and you might be better now, but like I know what all the old things are, and then I'm
Right.
just old. That's
Yep.
it. So,
So then when Mia shows up mid-movie in this scene, she shows up to the bunker, whatever.
but it's
There's
spoiled.
Well, yeah,
Because
well,
we know from the previous, that was the one thing I got from these is like a lot of like
wait,
reveals
what is spoiled? What do you think is spoiled?
that in the movie when Mia shows up, it's like, oh shit, there's Mia. But with the call with Dom earlier, you're like, okay, Mia shows up, but she was in the movie to begin with. So
Well, she's in the movie, yes, but
We
what's
didn't expect
different
her
about
here.
this version is that Dom confronts her because he's like, basically, "I asked you to do a thing. I wanted you to babysit the kids. You're not," he says to her,
yeah, you fucked this up.
"You get involved here, you put everything at risk, your kids and the whole world that you built." And it's much more confrontational
Yes.
because we saw Mia already. So her presence is spoiled, but like she's not expected to be here. But then,
Also true.
Letty tells her Jacob's involved, and that's when Mia comes out. We don't see Letty tell her that, but that's why she's here.
Yes. I don't know which version of the story I like better here. These are two that like I'm fine with them not being in the movie, which
Right.
I like a lot of the other ones. So like this is one that I'm like not really necessary, and it kind of makes the story weirder because like we're like talking about it like, well, it kind of spoils that Mia's there, but she wasn't supposed to be there because she's supposed to be watching Dom's kid, but then she's just like there with Brian. It works if they're just with Brian anyways. It doesn't matter, right? So
Because then it transitions into them saying, Brian has them the most important thing in the world or whatever, which we knew about. But
Yeah.
it's just, I do want to frame this as like, if you haven't watched these scenes yet and you're just listening to us talk about them, they get better. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff here. It's just
there's
that,
a lot
like,
of really good stuff. Yeah.
I was a little worried for these first couple because I'm just like, I don't know if like this sort of feels like I understand why these are cut, right? But
Yeah.
then there's a fun scene in that
Okay.
same sequence where Roman finds like a secret room
Yep.
that just got filled with stacks of cash. And Tej and Ramsey come in and he goes, "You get a stack, you get a stack," and Roman gets Roman, which is a great line, which I'm
Yes.
sad was cut out.
And so like it's like all this like Yugoslavian money. Tej is like, we can't spend this Yugoslavia's big.
Yeah, Yugoslavia hasn't been a country since 1992 or whatever. He's like, "You're an expert in history now?" And he goes, "I know cash."
Yeah, great line too. And then they find U.S. dollars, and he's like, "Yeah, but what about U.S. dollars?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit!" And then that's it.
Yep.
That's the end of that.
Yep. Again, just a fun scene, better than the other ones. There's no reason for it to be in there.
Yep.
It's just a nice kind of callback to like pockets empty cuz, but like they don't reference that, right? It's just
Exactly.
Roman gets Roman, which is good
Yeah.
line. Then another Roman thing in the scene where they talk about he's like, is my George
tech.
Foreman grill or my
Yes,
foot massager coming
I
to
have
kill
this
him or
too.
whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, because they talk about like, oh, what can Project Ares do? And there's like more things that Ramsey's explaining. She's like, it can like take over your refrigerator and take over something else. And he's like, my refrigerator can kill me. What about my George Foreman? And like something else. He's like,
My
this
foot
is crazy.
massager. Yeah.
This is crazy. And
And then
yes.
Ramsey immediately claps back and she says, "Do you know how it feels to create something that could end the world?"
Yeah.
Oh, I do. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, that's baggage that she is carrying that like we understand but has never been brought up. And the fact that
Yeah.
it's brought up here and then cut out is kind of a bummer because like that's like it's stuff that we don't really necessarily attribute, but like she created God's eye, right? Which
And it could end the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they were fighting for what, 1 or 2 movies. So,
Right.
yeah.
So the one thing I like about all this padding and padding is maybe it's a negative connotation, but like by adding all this stuff up to the top, right?
Yeah.
What I like about what they're doing is that it pushes Han's arrival later. So it comes a little bit more of a surprise in that way.
I
So
didn't think about that. Okay.
I'm sure they're also at some point just trying to get to the thing. Even though they're not adding a ton, it is kind of sort of, if not front loaded, like mid loaded. Because like most of this is in the middle hour of this movie.
You summed it up perfectly. It's like from the time they get to the bunker of Mr. Nobody to about when Cardi is there on the plane.
At the big mansion, yeah.
It's all pretty much in between there.
And there's like a little like we talked about before and a little bit after, but like it's the middle hour of the movie before, like after the opening action and before the closing action, it's all there.
The next one that I have is when they do the flashback to young Dom.
Yeah, this is my favorite one, I think.
I agree. This one should have been left in for sure. It susses out a lot of things that we asked. Like, why wouldn't Mia and Letty have been there, or even Vince have been there to pick Dom up out of prison? It wouldn't make any sense. But, like, he just pulls up.
Yeah, Letty goes, "You had another 8 months." And he just goes, "Good behavior." It's like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Mia goes, "Dom, we would have picked you up." And he's like, "Don't worry about it."
He just says, "I'm here now." Yeah.
Yeah, and that totally fixes a lot. Like, I guess you don't really need it, but at the same time, like, it was better for me. I agree. I like that part a lot. And then there's
it's
like
also cool to see like how excited like Vince and Jesse are to see him, right? Like they're just like,
yes. And then he kind of has like, I think what is a longer conversation with Jacob.
For sure. Yeah.
Because Jacob's like, you want to race me, but I did all these mods.
Yeah, you don't want to race me in Buddy's old Charger. It won't even be close. My Mustang with all the mods I put in it. And he goes, "Car don't make the driver. Here's how this goes." And then he tells like the losing you're out, right?
Yeah. So that was a cool one.
Dom confronts Jake, which I don't think this is in the theatrical cut. He says, "Tell me why you killed Dad."
I can't remember, but I thought the same thing too.
I think that's new. And I'm like, whoa. And Jacob doesn't answer.
Yeah, I don't think we actually get that until they're in the bunker and John Cena, and he's like, "Dad didn't want you to know." But I don't know.
Then there's, I think, a longer scene between Dom and Buddy, Michael Rooker.
It seemed like it might have been longer, but I couldn't be sure.
Because there's 2 lines in here that I don't remember. Doesn't mean that they're not in the theatrical cut, but Buddy says, "This isn't going to stop till one of you is in the ground," which might, now that I'm saying it, might sound familiar. But then you got to make peace with the past if you want hope for the future. And I don't remember.
That sounds new. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, same kind of thing. Like make amends with Jacob. You kicked him out. The worst thing to do to try to take away his family. Blah blah blah. All that different stuff. Then there's one that is very very clearly new.
It's
which
awesome.
Is Letty and Mia going to Han's old shop in Tokyo, which I was just like, oh wow, okay.
Yes, this was mind blowing. So the first place they go before they do the noodle shop thing.
Yeah.
They go to Han's old garage, and they're just like walking around. They're like, this place has been picked over 1,000 times.
The movie makes it seem like they went to Japan and were just like, well, we're hungry. We should just eat. Like, here's like they're actually
Just
doing
stopping
work
to
first.
eat. Yeah. They're like, no, they started, and then they're like, oh, they're kind of at a dead end, so they get noodles. But like the first place they go is Han's old garage, and that was a
Yeah.
really cool scene. They like dig through his office, kind of, and there was something very cool in the scene. I don't know if you caught it or not.
Well, they're trying to make sense of where Han ended up, right?
Yeah.
And Letty or Mia says police records make it sound like he was running around with a bunch of small-time crooks. Like, why would he do this? He's a millionaire, whatever. And Letty says, don't mock it. That's how we started. Maybe Han was looking for a change of scenery after Gisele died. People mourn in different ways.
Yes. And then they explain the whole thing that we don't get till later.
Right.
Mia and Letty connect that
Yes.
Han and Gisele like, oh, Mr. Nobody, whatever, like this is all the records are like covered with Mossad stuff. He had to have met Mr. Nobody from Gisele.
Right.
Now this makes sense, which I like. That was cool clarity, but
What's
also
interesting about the director's cut is that it's explaining things like this that we would put together as more intense super fans or whatever.
yes, yeah.
And it's also giving things that like would go over people's heads, which we'll talk about later in a scene with Jacob, which I'm just like, but this just feels like because Gisele, she's former Mossad, Mr. Nobody's a spy. They could have run in the same circles. There's Mossad clearance all over.
And he even says it
Missions-
later. He
Yes,
says
exactly.
like, yeah, so it's just redundancy. So I get why it's cut, but at the same time, like this was a cool scene, and like maybe cut the part of Han and Mr. Nobody talking first. Like
I don't know. But what I thought was very funny was
did you catch it?
I think Mia, maybe Letty says, "Leave it to Mr. Nobody to confuse everyone," which I just think is a great line because, like, yeah, like we're so confused by him, right? But what did I miss? What's the cool thing?
So Mia goes, okay, let me let Roman and Tej know what we just found out. And when she picks up her cell phone, Roman has saved his mouth in her phone. Just
Oh, that's
mouth.
very cool. Very
Yeah.
very cool. Okay.
So she just calls and it says like dialing mouth, and like that's it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Because then we go right to Germany, which is when we cut to Roman and Tej, and so like that's where this fits in the scene, which is nice.
Yes.
And then we go back to Tokyo, and then this is what the movie is the introduction to Tokyo, and is their noodle scene. But this is an extended scene. What I really liked about this, and this is like peering into Letty's character too. Mia says to her, How are you doing? Change of pace, huh?" And she says, "Just as I was remembering who I was, everything changed. It slowed down. There's peace for me in the chaos." It's like I need
think
to
that
face the
existed
world.
though. I think peace for me in the chaos was still in the movie. I think that there's other lines before and after, but when I heard that one, I was like, oh, that sounded so familiar. I was like, are these other ones it? That's
Well, because
why.
I think this ties in, and I might be thinking this is new, but this is reminding me of like Brian. Mia complained that Brian likes the bullets, right?
Yes.
Like that's this. But it's the same thing with Letty, and we might have again this something, but it feels like this is a longer because Letty's like just as I'm getting my memory back and I'm remembering who
This
I
part
am,
sounds new,
and
yeah.
I'm basically I need to be on the go. Dom is basically like, hey, we're gonna go into hiding. We're not gonna do any more action. She's like, that's not who I am. That's I got ride or die or whatever, right? So,
Yep.
and then that's when they see the flag and go from there. But yeah, I mean, it's nice because I think that's a lot. I just like that there's more Mia and Letty together in Tokyo. Like it's cool that there's more time there.
That first scene shouldn't have been cut. There's like little dialogue pieces that I'm like, we said this when we were talking in chat. Like when the movie was 2 hours and 15 minutes long,
Yeah.
you save 7 minutes of cutting dialogue. Like some of them I get, like okay, maybe the Mia and Dom scene kind of, but like there's some stuff that I'm like, just why? Like
Yeah,
why'd you
yeah.
need to trim 7 minutes off of 2:15? It doesn't fucking matter at that point.
And
So,
I think you could realistically like half of this maybe. But I guess okay, so you also have to think about, right? Like these are the 7 minutes that Justin Lin's like I wanted in. But there's probably another 7 or 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever that like is close like
Exist.
that we would love.
yes,
That aren't in there either. So like
the like
there's probably
Vince's mom scene
right.
that just didn't exist until we were like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this? Yeah, exactly.
Then I think
The next one is Cardi.
no, before that,
What?
I think when there's, again, it might not be, but it feels like there's more like a longer lingering shot of the jewelry store that Queenie robs.
No, that felt about the same length to
Okay.
me.
Does she say in the theatrical cut, Dom, don't get yourself killed, okay? You're my favorite American? Or is that
Yes,
new?
she does. She
Okay.
does.
So then the party is new, and this is where we see Cardi before Cardi surprises, right?
Which
So she
fixes
says,
what she says in the
yes,
plane
yes.
so much better. I was like, Rachel and I looked at each other
Well,
and
not
we
the
were
plane,
like,
in the truck, right? In the back of the truck.
the truck, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the back of the truck. Whenever I saw that, I was like, fuck yes. Like, now that part makes sense. Kind of didn't in the movie. Like, you could assume what happened, but like, Cardi passes Dom at the party, and he knows that she's there. Like,
She says, Dominic Toretto, tell me, why is the best fruit always forbidden? And he goes, you should know, which, okay. And then she just laughs. So, okay.
Yeah,
because in the movie, in the theatrical, she's like, you saw me in that white dress? And she's
yes.
like, we didn't, though.
Like, every girl was in a white dress, so like, he could have seen her in the white dress, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that like the Otto Dom conversation has a couple more lines in it. It felt like to me.
Does it? I don't know. I didn't write any notes there. It might be.
It felt like it had a couple more lines in it. I'm not sure though. It was
It's a
another
scene
one
where
of
like
these
Otto
things.
is offering Dom whatever he wants, right? You want to have sex with these women or
Yeah.
whatever, just like
there was
say
like
the
one
word. So
before
that's
that,
it. Okay.
maybe one after that. It was just like yeah.
But I guess there's one more thing after this. But like this is the last, like I think, really, really big one.
Go ahead. Yep.
Where they go inside, and this is the confrontation where Dom's about to draw, or Jacob draws on Dom, and they tussle or whatever, and then he gets arrested, whatever.
Yeah.
But Jacob says, and this I think is where they cut it because it's like nobody's gonna remember who these people are.
Yep.
What do you think happened, Dom? Of course, I would. If you didn't, I would be very worried. What do you think happened, Dom, every time he took somebody down? Their territory just stayed crime-free? The Trans, Braga, the Shaws, Cypher. You paved the way for me, so here's my offer. It's the same one you gave me. You leave now. You drive away, never come back ever. So the last part, I'm going to make you the same offer. That's in the movie. But all that connective tissue about, like, you know,
He lists
Jacob
all the
moving
old baddies.
in. Yes. And our game that we're playing this lap is basically like, it's almost null and void because it's just like, okay, so he takes out Johnny Tran and then Jacob's family moves in there or whatever and just like, okay, I run this shit now. And like, it's much more nefarious and cool. And nope, just gone from the movie.
Yeah, I agree. But it is cool that Jacob establishes that he was right behind Dom.
Yeah.
Like that we were pitching that like he had to be around, and obviously it could have been like he just fucked off, you know, and like didn't think about this until Mr. Nobody found him or whatever. But no, it does play exactly with what we wanted, which is that he was right there, like cleaning up after him, kind of, you know? Like,
right. And there's a line early in the movie, this is the theatrical version too, that I was going to talk about when we have Heather join later, but just talk about it now. But Jacob says to Cypher's like, I should have just hired you instead of trying to get your brother, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't work for the competition. And like, I think we probably talked about that, but we haven't really talked about Jacob's organization, whatever it is, because he doesn't work for Mr. Nobody anymore.
Yeah.
Being competition to Cypher. And I wonder if whatever that organization is, if they're going to be some kind of big bad or whatever. Because we now ostensibly have Cypher's group. Mm-hmm. We have Jacob's now former group. And we
just
have
funded
ETN.
by Otto. That's just funded by Otto. And we don't really know who the group is. Like, we know, like, there's...
No,
like,
not at all.
The guy with, like, the teeth. But that seems like that was Otto's boy, not Jacob's
correct.
boy.
I think so.
Yeah, so...
And then if they cross over, we also have ETN, too. But we have this other thing, which I don't know. I mean,
could
again,
be
we
Etion.
have... It could be. Yeah, it could be.
But he wouldn't need Otto's funding if Etion...
Unless, Etion became Etion through Otto's dad or something, right? So...
No, that wouldn't make all
I don't know.
sense.
I don't know. But
yeah,
there is that whole... There's another organization that they could play with if they wanted. Because to talk about Otto also gets more to do here in the director's cut. Like, there's a scene with Otto and Jacob kind of talking shop.
What?
Otto says, 1 week from now, there won't be a superpower in the world that can't take a piss without asking our permission.
No, that was in the movie.
That's in the movie?
Yeah. And he's
then,
like,
okay.
something, your dad. He's like, yeah, well, whatever.
1 week from now, your dad won't be asking, or will be asking you for an allowance. Okay, so that's in the movie. But then I think there's more Otto when they're doing the heist.
I couldn't. The only thing that looked different to me is them pushing the fucking Ocean's 11 cart into the basement.
I think that's in the movie, though. I remember that being in the movie.
Tell.
But there's like, considering I've seen this 5 times now,
yeah,
who knows? But it felt like Otto, like in the St. Giles Cathedral, and then Ramsey tailing Otto. Like, I think that probably is in the movie, could be in the movie, but also like
it is. A lot of it is.
Feels like there's maybe more of it or not.
A little bit
know.
longer.
I don't know.
I can't tell.
But the only other thing that I have definitively new
Go
is
ahead.
a cutaway of Dom calling Brian, baby
When,
Brian.
whenever they go back to the bunker because they sucked Jacob into the van,
Yep.
the magnet guy. When they go back to the bunker and put him in the jail, as soon as he like closes the doors.
Dom calls baby Brian. He's just like, how you doing? Is Uncle Brian or whatever taking care of you? You know, if you,
This
I'll
is
be home
wild, by the
before,
way.
you know,
You
before you can
count
count to 1,000. If you count to 1,000 before I'm home, you know, Brian can give you another sweet after dinner or whatever, right?
And he's like, I don't break promises. I'm like, Dom, you're totally about to break this promise.
Well, I think so. What this reminds me of is that when Mia and Brian are on the phone in an earlier movie, and Mia says, "Don't say that. Don't say I'm gonna see you again or whatever."
Yeah.
But like it's the phone call where like in this movie when we saw it the first time, Dom sacrifices himself ostensibly to to get everybody out, but it's just like you have a child now. But here it's kind of like like he said goodbye in a way, right? So like it kind of sort of explains why he's willing to die because he got to talk to Baby B one last time, but it's still.
But he lied to him, and he like
I know
he obviously lies to him, saying like I'll be home before you can count to 1,000, which means like Dad's on his way home, right? Like that's like.
Or the kid's real dumb and bad at counting, one or the other.
Yeah, or he's like, I know you don't know numbers for shit. Like you're not Tej, you don't know anything about numbers. Like, yeah, like it's either that, but like, and then he goes on to be like, I promise, I don't break promises. And I'm like, bro, we got like an hour of this movie left. There's no way he's not counting to 1,000. Like, if he was like, okay, 1, 2, you're fucked. Like, that's it. It's over. And then like the reciprocal is like you get 2 treats before dinner. Like, okay, cool.
I
Like,
want
guess
an
that's
alternate
cool.
cut of this movie where Baby Brian is like a Twitch streamer and like he's in the corner of the screen talking and he's just counting while there's the action on the screen.
Yes,
And he's just like
yes.
64, 65,
Yeah, exactly.
and then he finally gets home. And I think that's all the new stuff. Is there anything else that I did not cover? Anything else that you found that we did not talk about?
No, I think that our list matched up pretty good. You might have had a couple more than me, and I might have had a couple that were wrong.
But again, they might not even be right. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. But we hit all the big ones for sure. At least what I noticed. And then like after that, it was just like the same action sequences. So like I'm unsure. So
Because I told you before, as you started watching, you're like, is this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I thought the same kind of thing. But I'm like, in my estimation, you were like, whoa. I think there's somewhere between like 10 and like 18-ish newer extended scenes.
I think so. I think that's
I
about
don't
right.
like it depends. It's safe bet is in the middle, so I'm like 15-ish, but some of those, might have been 13, 15 in that like sort of thing. But like, there's a bunch of new stuff here. I think there's a couple really cool ones. At Han's garage.
Yep.
Jacob referencing like Johnny Tran and stuff like that.
Yep, for
the
sure.
Flashback. Those are all really cool. Some other stuff I can see. I can see why all this got cut, but I'm just glad that we have it here that we can incorporate because now this is just the version of the movie that we watch, right? So.
Would you have preferred this as the first version we watched?
No, because I liked that there was like I'm not bored with this movie, but I like that there was a new reason to watch the movie.
Not even for that sake. I'm saying, is this a better version of the movie than the theatrical version?
I think we've talked about this. I don't know that F9's a good movie. I love it. I don't think it's a good movie necessarily. Like I think that it's doing a lot of stuff, and I think it's very fan servicey and fun. Structurally, I don't know. Like it just feels like, and again, it's not necessarily its fault. It's just
It's
the
an
nature
action
of the
movie
beast.
with a ton of people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that like this is better or worse. I just think that there's more of it, but there's already so much of it, right?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I think that you could do this one, release this as the theatrical one, and you're fine.
I think that where I'm at right now, after just watching it and watching Fast 9 so many times up until now, I like this version better.
Yeah.
As of right now. I only like it better because it came after the theatrical version. I think if this was the theatrical version, I would have been let down that there wasn't as many like cool reveals because it kind of like spoiled some of those. Like you don't get
It only spoils them because it just reveals them earlier. Like it's not really a spoiler as much as just like doing it earlier. And I think it's fine. And again, I do genuinely think that the more time you add, the biggest spoiler of all is that Han's in the trailer, Jacob's in the trailer, right? So like
that's true, but I mean like you get like just a glimpse of Cardi. And you're not excited that she's in the back of the truck and broke Dom out because she was there.
But like the truck scene is messy in the theatrical version because you're like,
Why is she talking about the white dress?
Why is she talking about the white dress? Is that Cardi B? Like, you know,
Yeah,
if you don't know her,
yeah.
it's just like, wait, where are we? Who is this? Like,
Yeah, because it also it doesn't fix any of the things that like like
no
Dom
timeline
is in the
stuff. Yeah,
water, Letty jumps down, and then Dom wakes up.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like Dom gets arrested in the embassy, and then he's in the back of the truck with Cardi.
Right, correct.
None of these things get like sussed out. So
like, I wouldn't want to watch a 4-hour F9 every lap or 5 times in like 10 weeks or whatever. But like, if there's like a 4-hour version of any of these movies, like I'd want to watch it because like if it tells a connective, like even if it's stuff that, like we don't need, like people understand, I'm like, no, give it to me. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Because there is stuff here again, like I was saying, that there's the 7 minutes here, but there's probably another 7 minutes or 15 or 20 or half an hour or whatever, where they're like, we really can't do this. Like this isn't even up to whatever. So I don't know. I don't mind this. I like this here. I don't feel the same way that you do. I see where you're coming from about the like spoiling things earlier, but I think it's fine. I think it's okay.
Okay, it works for me. Like I said, I'm glad that we got this, and I enjoyed watching it, and I'm glad that we're gonna watch this version. That's good for me. I think that overall it is better, especially with like us watching it again and again. But I think the theatrical version was the better version to release as the theatrical version.
Yeah, and the good news is that we won't have to watch this movie again for 8 more weeks. So instead of like the 3 weeks, 8 whole weeks in between. So, you know.
2 months. I mean, it'll feel like a lifetime.
Because we've got 7, 8, 9. The next time we're going to watch it is in lap order with a new guest. So,
cool.
Yeah. All right, the final thing to do before we take a break is to talk about the Too Fast, Too Furious minute 26. And this is a title I will change because I spitballed a lot of questions. We'll go to the questions at the end.
Yeah,
But depending on which question we pick, because I don't want to do 6 questions, but I'm just like, I don't know if any of these are good.
I like a couple of them. Go ahead.
Title right now, which is the answer to one of the questions, is I'll Ride With You, Cowboy.
I like that title, though.
Convertible. It might loosen your moose.
No, that's cool. That's too much chrome for me anyways.
Hey, where y'all confiscate these rims from, man?
Check in with us after you meet.
Think you're gonna have any problems with these 2 knuckleheads?
I can handle them.
If they give you any trouble at all, you let me know.
Thanks, Marco. I'll ride with you, cowboy.
Why she gotta ride with you?
You get the convertible. Let's go. Turn right here. So you used to be a cop.
Yeah. How long you been under?
I lost track.
So in this minute, Brian and Roman pick the car as they're driving. They leave the warehouse together with Monica Fuentes in Brian's car. Monica Fuentes gives Brian driving directions as they talk about their past. After so much had happened in previous minutes, this is just them kind of like a dick measuring contest a little bit. Monica leaves with Brian, and then they just sort of talk about being a cop or whatever. Yeah.
This scene was very interesting to me. Normally we can get like some signs and things, right?
Sure.
There is nothing. Like the way Singleton shot this driving sequence, you cannot make out anything but Brian, his car, Eva Mendes, and Tyrese in his car. That's it. There's one car that you make out otherwise, like road signs, everything is out of focus. Completely out of focus. You can't make out anything. The driving part, a little bit harder. But I did find something cool.
Okay.
It was something that I was trying to get the past 2 scenes, but I couldn't figure out a way to do it. I used my nice unlocked brain now. As they're pulling out of the hangar, I made a note too that there was a helicopter and a plane inside the hangar behind them,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
You said there was like a bunch of guys working on it. I think like
Yeah,
9
I think
guys.
I see at least 9 dudes like just quote unquote like doing work, just like I don't know, look busy. Like you're a government guy,
Yeah. So
just
one
look
guy
like
like
you're doing something.
One guy like spins one of the props on the plane. The other guys are just like all kind of standing around.
Just imagine like 9 dudes like waxing a thing, just like yeah, I'm working on cars.
Exactly. Yeah. Look
Because
busy.
you can't see them; they're just like in the background, like at work. Yeah.
I thought that was like pretty interesting, but I was like, I want to figure out what the fuck one of these planes or helicopters is, right? And like I went on last time when we did the last minute, I went on like the airplane movie database. Too Fast isn't in it. Nobody really cares about what planes are in this movie. It's not really a plane movie, right? So it makes sense. But this time, check this out. As they're pulling out of the hangar, I caught the tail
Cool.
number on the plane. So I found on FlightAware.
Landed over 9 years ago.
Yes, I found on FlightAware the tail number, which I read as N1558.
Yep.
It says that it landed 9 years ago, went from Jacksonville to Jacksonville.
Which tracks. Yep.
Which kind of tracks. Guess what? You go down, you know who the owner of the plane was?
Carter Verone.
No, United States Customs Service.
Oh, so that actually was like a plane.
It was a plane. It was a customs plane. On the other one in the background, I think it says United States Customs Service on the top of it. So I'm assuming Customs had a couple, which I now presume to be at least 3 of these planes. I couldn't find the other one, but... Okay, so I looked up the plane. Then from that, because it says the aircraft type is a C-12, the Beechcraft C-12 Huron is a government plane based on like a plane that Beechcraft makes.
Cool,
It's like the military design of it. It's used by the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, which would make sense that this is a customs plane, right?
Yep.
I think that I solved the issue of what plane it was, and I got the tail number, and I think that we can put a stamp on that. And I'm very proud of the back research that I got to get the plane in the thing. So I think that's one. I think I would assume that they're all the same model of plane, right? They all kind of look
Or similar,
same.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Wait, was it something I talked to with you or somewhere else that, like, I again, like, I'm only bringing this up because it sounds insane, but I also could believe it, that there are, like, 7 types of helicopters and that's it. Like, there's, like, a crazy low number of helicopters.
Was
that
talk
on
about
here?
it? We might have talked about that when we were talking about the tail number in the minute of the first Fast and the Furious.
Right.
When we were like, there's really not that many helicopters or something. We were like, what? like
that can't be true, but also, like, it's, like, in my head because I'm like, that, like, it's not something that, like, I heard that somewhere. I'm just like, no, that there's no way, but I'm like, also maybe, because I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we were like, there's a lot less helicopters than we thought there was.
Right.
Yeah, I think that
The
that
number
did
might not be
compromise.
7, but it's not like, you know, there's not, like, tens of thousands.
Yeah, because
or
you could have
whatever,
told me
car
there's like
models.
300 helicopter companies, and I'd have been like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. And then you could have
Yeah.
told me there's 5, and I'd have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no fucking idea. Anyway, next time I'm going to try to get the helicopter.
When I watch these minutes, because I watch them before you, and, like, sometimes I warn you, sometimes I didn't today, but I'm just like, in every minute, or not every minute, but a lot of minutes, I'm like, either you're going to have a field day or you're going to have nothing. And, like, it's hard to tell because it's just, like, there's things there.
There
but, like you were
is.
saying, like, they're driving, they're on surface streets. Like, I know that you'd want to find that, but like you said, there's no markers.
There's
You know,
no
there's planes and
signs.
shit around. It's just, like, it's
Yeah.
all there. Like, you have the pieces, but you're too zoomed in. And not through any fault of your own. It's just, like, nobody ever wanted to watch this movie like, oh, where are they geographically in Miami? Because nobody gives a shit. Maybe in the next minute you find a sign, you can, like, backtrack and see if you can find
That's
this
what I
thing
do
too.
sometimes.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, and I know where Carter Vrone's house is. So, like, we're going to get there. I know where
Are we
his
gonna
house-
Airbnb it?
I think we might be able to.
Probably like $10,000 a night or something. Like something crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like a famous Miami house too. So I mean, we'll get there. Like I said, I use the fucking the maps, like the movie maps to go, and there's just like nothing here, and there's no road signs. Like usually, even if like they don't have it and they tell you where you're going, I can get the like any type of sign can help me put where I think it is. But
Right. Yes.
if I can't see anything, I can't see anything. They're just in Miami driving down the street. So
Exactly. What are you gonna do? Speaking of Miami, I want to say there's 2 things in here about Monica Fuentes that I love. Number one, I've noticed this when watching the movie, but like the way she rides with her foot on the seat, just like so like we know that she's not going to be thrown by the stair and drive, which is probably next minute, maybe, or if not next minute, the minute after. Like it's very
really close.
soon.
It's very soon, yeah.
But the way that she's just like sitting there, like she's just so calm and casual. And what I like even more is that before that, you can tell she's already exhausted by Roman because he's like,
oh yeah,
he's big dick and he's just like, I want to ride this. Like there's too much chrome, blah blah blah. This is the car I want. Don't even think about taking the convertible. And then when she's like, I'll ride with you, cowboy, and he goes, why she got to ride with you? And she just goes, you get the convertible. Like, it almost feels like an Elaine Bennis kind of delivery, where just like, I cannot take it with these fucking morons. And like, she just met Roman. Like, they just met for the first time because she was not at the race.
Yeah.
This is their meeting, and within 5 minutes, essentially, if that, she's just like.
But you know that feeling, like.
Oh yeah.
You have this feeling where you meet someone, and as soon as they open their mouth, you're like, I already know this person.
Yep.
I know Roman. I know somebody that is a Roman, and she's like, I'm not dealing with it. You're not hitting on me. I'm not tolerating it. I'm just coming from the jump being like, I'm not putting up with your bullshit.
And we even see that a little bit, like Markham, like, you think you have any problems with these two knuckleheads? And she says, I can handle them. Like, it's not, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there was like a game of telephone tag or whatever, where Bilkins is like, all right, Markham, we got Brian's boy, but just letting you know,
he's kind of a character. Yeah, he's a character. He's a bit of a character.
And then Markham calls Fuentes like, all right, the plan's in motion. They're coming back now. But just so you know, and so maybe it's not crazy to think that maybe in her head she's like hearing this like, he's good at what, just remember that he's good at what he does, because you're not going to want to be around him, right? So
yeah, or she like she has that and she's like, okay, I'll give him a chance. And he's like, oh, where'd you get them rims at? And she's like, oh, fine.
Right.
You know, whatever.
So on that note, a bunch of different questions are all about the dialogue. And I don't know which one I like best, because they're all like sort of nitpicky and also sort of obvious and also everywhere in between. So either, how long has Monica Fuentes been undercover? She says, I lost track.
This is top tier in my list.
That's a Too Fast, Too Forever classic quiz question.
It's incredibly good.
What nickname does Monica Fuentes call Brian, Cowboy, which would change the name of the minute, but I like the name of the minute, kind of.
I like the name of the minute a lot, and we could come up with good answers for that. That was second tier, but I like that one too.
What reason does Monica Fuentes give Roman for why she's riding with Brian? Because Roman is driving a convertible, which is fine.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Why doesn't Brian mind passing on the convertible? He says it has too much chrome. What does Roman say Brian shouldn't drive? Or why does Roman say Brian shouldn't drive the convertible? It would, quote, loosen his moose, which is just a great line.
That's just really funny.
And then what element of the convertible does Roman admire? The rims. So I do think that given how cool Eva Mendes is in this minute, it should be a Monica Fuentes question.
I think
so. You
so.
Want to do both of these or just one of these?
I could get down with both, to be honest.
Okay. So how long has Monica Fuentes been undercover? Give me 3 times, or things that aren't times.
Do all the Lompoc ones, right? Spent 2 years in Lompoc, never going back. Spent 6 months at Lompoc, never going back. So like 2 years, 6 months, and then like 2 months. Make like one a double for no reason. So
these are the answers we had before. 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. She lost track.
No, 6 years. It has to be 2 months, 6 months,
okay.
6 months, 6 years. Yeah.
So then, do we need to change the name of this minute? Because I don't want to have it all right with you, Cowboy.
No. I think that's fine because people. I've watched Rachel take the quiz and
they don't
these
read
ones
that
up.
part. Yeah. There's a lot going on in the quiz. Okay, so what other nicknames?
And we're deep enough that we're like you would already like even if you knew that going in at minute 1, we're at minute 26. We're about 30 questions deep.
Yep.
That you're gonna be like it doesn't even matter. You're not gonna pay attention, and it's also smaller font. Yeah, this is perfect. Okay. Bullet.
Okay.
Right. B, just like little B.
B, Bullet, Cowboy.
Blondie.
Handsome, and Blondie.
Oh, okay.
B, Blondie, Bullet, Cowboy, Handsome. Because Cowboy also sticks it like a sore thumb. You're like, I can't.
It almost
Cowboy.
Doesn't work, right? It's the reverse thing. I like it a lot.
I think it's Cowboy, but it doesn't. These guys they normally give a hint in the answers, and there's nothing.
The reverse hint thing is bad. Well, it's 3B, so it's one of the B. I'm going to get this question wrong. Even with it in the title and us talking about it. That's one that I'm going to be very pissed at myself for getting wrong.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Is it the Customs Agency? What's the official title on the sign?
It's U.S. Customs Services, which is what was on the plane, too.
Service, singular. Okay.
At least that's what the plane record says, because that's the first thing I found. I had that tab open.
So how long has Monica Fuentes been undercover? 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, 6 years. She lost track. Answer is she lost track. And what nickname does Monica Fuentes call Brian before they leave U.S. Customs Service? B, Blondie, Bullet, Cowboy, or Handsome?
Service, office, hangar? Leave the hangar, maybe.
We can say hangar.
Yeah.
All right. Good minute. 2 good questions. Shout out to
questions.
Eva Mendes for bringing the heat in that minute. But let's take a break and let us bring in Heather Antos to talk about F9 Director's Cut, 5th Gear.
This is episode number 200, F9, Fifth Gear, : if you want it. This episode is brought to you by Jacob Long, Esquire. The law offices of Jacob Long provide legal services for criminal defense, traffic, personal injury, probate, juvenile, and domestic relations matters. Shout out to Jacob Long.
Well, shout out to Jacob Long. Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. We just spent I just edited it. So in the time between recording the intro and recording this episode, because we're doing this on different days, I edited. So we have half an hour, a solid half hour deep dive of F9 Director's Cut. But here, to give her own deep dive of her favorite film franchise, we have Fast and Furious Superfan. So we were talking, I think it was on the Speed Racer episode on the Patreon exclusive, but I was saying to Garrett that I want to give every guest of ours a nickname that never gets
moniker.
repeated.
Yeah.
And Heather, you are officially our Fast and Furious superfan. Heather Antos is here. Hello, Heather.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it is both accurate and ironic, mostly ironic, but also, you like these things, and also you're a good sport. So I don't want to say good sport, Heather Antos, but Fast and Furious superfan. Heather
No,
Antos.
I like it. I will wear that name proudly.
Plus, you were there on opening night with us, and that's not something that everybody can say.
Yeah, that is how much of a super fan I was. I got lost on my way home from that.
Did you really?
Yeah, I don't know. The GPS took me a completely different way than it took me there. It ended up taking me all these side streets and through neighborhoods. I didn't take any highways or anything on the way home. And it was pitch black and no street lights. And then at one point I lost cell service. So I lost my GPS and I was like, I'm going to die. This is how I go.
Well, ride or die, remember?
I don't get to see how the franchise ends.
No, that would be the cruelest irony of all, that after we make you watch 10 of these movies and you're we're so close to the end, and then you're no, I don't even get to find out how it ends. Nope. And you go up to heaven and you're just
I'll
tell
hang out
me.
with Brian, it'll be fine.
Paul Walker and you.
Yep.
He doesn't know how it ends either.
No, he doesn't.
Man, that's exciting to watch the F11 premiere with Paul Walker in heaven. Wow.
That's how much of a real fan I am.
You're such a real fan, such a super fan, Fast and Furious super fan, that you're going to die so that you can go to heaven and watch the premiere with Paul Walker. That's pretty...
It's dedication.
That's spectacular.
Yeah, you're not
really
that
dedicated.
dedicated, are you, Joey?
No, I'm going to watch it terrestrially because, I don't think podcasts are in heaven
Mortally,
yet. Yeah. But anyway, welcome back to the show. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching the movie. And thank you for watching the movie a second time. You now watched the director's cut with an extra 7 minutes of footage. I love it.
Just like the song, yeah.
Just like 2 Chainz, we own it. So
I own it. I officially own a Fast
Is this
and
the first
Furious
one that
movie.
you own?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's really cool, actually.
I watched all the other ones that, you provided. I don't like to illegally watch things. So
right.
I bought it.
So this is one that I will have the Blu-ray in about a week after this comes out, and it'll have a digital code, and so that's how I was letting Heather watch the earlier ones. But this one, because it's available digitally to own, we all have to do that kind of thing. But between now and then, there's a murky gray water whatever. But we will soon I will once again have available to all of our guests the entire Fast and Furious library
Woot woot.
on my Vudu. Which I don't know if that's legal to say, but it's all fine.
We're all family.
We're all family. That's right.
So I just looked through my notes, and I have no new notes for this movie that I did not talk about yesterday in the intro. So, Heather, this is, as always, this is your floor, your time to shine.
Did you like it?
I think you liked it in theaters, but what do you think about it now? A couple months later, the excitement of the night has worn off. You've seen it now a second time. You own it. You've put your hard-earned money into it again.
Yeah. I bought Fast and Furious instead of a coffee this morning, so
There you go.
That's dedication.
Truly.
I remember telling you guys after we saw it in theaters, you better record the podcast tomorrow because this is going to be the best, the highest I'm going to feel about it. Because I think I definitely need the in-theater experience.
Sure.
For these films, for me to really suspend the disbelief and all of that. I will say it held up better watching it here at home than I thought it would.
Okay.
Yeah, I had very similar feelings in that I think it's a little too long. It's about a half hour too long for me personally, but it's really fun. Everyone gets a chance to shine. This is the film where they really acknowledge what these films are. It definitely gets meta. Really meta.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun. This is one that I would put higher on my list of favorites for sure.
Now, is this the first Fast and Furious movie that you have seen more than once?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
But that's only because I haven't had a chance to watch Jason Statham with the baby on an airplane again.
Okay, fair. That makes sense.
So you said this is one of your more favorite movies. Everybody gets a chance to shine. What did you think of the new stuff? Like, do you think, because again, we've talked about this on Your Lap, and we talk about it a lot of the time, there's so much going on in all these movies. There's so many characters already, and then they bring in
They
Jacob,
always bring in new
bring
ones,
in
yeah.
Elle, they bring in Otto and everybody, right? So, like, in terms of the stuff that's new, how do you think that was implemented? Did that work for you? The movie, the franchise is not always hitting home runs in your eyes. Like, how did you think that the incorporation of, like, Jacob and Elle specifically did, and bringing Han back, too?
And this could partially be because I've essentially binged all these films this year. The new stuff felt fairly organic to me.
Okay.
John Cena is in the family. Like, do I believe that him and Vin Diesel could ever be related in any universe? Absolutely not. But
Scandinavian chin. His Scandinavian chin is what gives it away.
I know.
He's about your height. He's got your looks. He's like your cousin or something. Queenie, come on. They don't look even a little bit alike.
No, not even a little bit. And Vin Diesel wishes he looked like the kid who played young Toretto, but whatever.
Did you like the flashbacks? So the flashbacks
I was
are kind of
gonna
a
ask
mixed
that, yes.
bag because some people love them, some people don't. Some people like them and still don't think the characters look the same. But what did you think of the flashbacks in general, how they were implemented, and also, the looks of the young people?
I like the idea of them. I think they relied on them a little too heavily.
There was
in
a
the
lot
film.
of time. It was a
There
lot
was
of
a
screen time.
lot of time. Like, I liked it opening with it, and I think if they cut back to the flashback, like, one more time when they revealed that, like, Dad did tell Jacob to, do whatever, like, I think that would be fine. But they cut back and did, like, what, like 4 flashbacks?
It feels about 4. That's not
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think the kid who played young John Cena, Jacob, like, looked enough where it was believable to me. But young Dom, was laughable. Laughable.
We've had mixed reviews on that. Some people say that, like, he looked dead on. Like, they were like, oh, man, this looks like a young Dom. For sure. No, I agree. I was more like, he looks
how Vin
different.
Diesel thinks he looks.
Well, and that's the other hard thing, and we've talked about this before, too, is that we watched Young Rock, and they cast 3 versions of young Dwayne Johnson, and
Dead
they're
on.
all so good.
Yeah,
and,
they're
like,
all
even if that
so
wasn't what
good.
he looked like then, it's
You
close
believe it,
enough.
yeah.
Yes. And especially the college age one, just like, oh, yeah, like, that guy is going to become someone who looks and, like, like, physically takes up the space of a guy like The Rock. But, yeah, I mean, I don't mind young Dom. I think he's a good actor. I think it works.
I
Like, it
think
doesn't
he
take me out of
acted
it,
well. Yeah, I think his I liked him as an actor. I think just visually it was very, like, off-putting to me.
Would you have preferred, we've talked about this before, but would you have preferred that they de-aged
Oh, God, no, I hate that.
Vin Diesel?
I hate that.
Right?
But also, like, de-age him, but, like, de-muscle him, too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they can't do that with him. He's a muscly thumb. That's what he looks like.
Well, so this, we have commented on this before, but I think that Vin in this movie is looking more human. Because I think when he was still trying to compete on screen with The Rock, he was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now he looks more like a person. I mean, he still looks like a big person because he's still like an action star, but he looks more person-like. And so he's less of a, I guess, would you say, thumb? But like he's
Thumb on
he's still, I mean,
steroids.
he's still a big man that would require hours and hours in the gym each day, but he looks more like a person, which is nice.
I agree.
I don't know. You guys know my feelings on Vin Diesel.
Yes,
We're gonna steer clear from that as quickly as we
they
possibly
haven't
can.
changed.
But what about Han? What about Han and Elle? Because that's the
Oh,
other
I
kind of
loved
new-
them. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
okay, cool.
I loved them. I think Al is so cool. I think that story is so cool. I mean, I told you previously, like, I want to do Fast and Furious comics specifically about them and what they've been up to,
That would
this
be so
last
awesome.
like I think Han is the most interesting character in the franchise. Clearly there's a lot of stories to be told there. And just in general, like, Elle was great. I loved the spotlight, like, all the ladies in this film got.
Yeah.
Mia got to kick ass in this film, which I have been waiting for. She really is the heart of this franchise to me.
Nico dubbed her the heart of the race, I think, right?
Yeah.
And, like, she's the one who, like, forgave Jacob and, like, let him, get the car and get away and, like, all this stuff. And like you said, of a franchise that has 20 bazillion characters.
Yeah.
This film, I felt, did a really good job giving each character time to shine in the spotlight, but like it was never gratuitous on any of the characters aside from all the flashback sequences,
Right.
which was a lot.
But which is also new, and like that, I feel like they're maybe finding their footing there because that's something that they've never tried before. Like it's always been like the actual chronology of the movies is out of order because of Tokyo Drift, but like each movie has always been told linearly or in a linear fashion. And so here to jump back and forth between two timelines, I think it works pretty well. I mean, I think it could have been worse. Maybe it could have been better. I don't know. I didn't mind it. Again, we're watching these movies differently. But on the other point you just made about the women, one other thing that we did not talk about in the opening when we talked about the director's cut, the 7 extra minutes, is that, there's some other stuff in there, but like a lot of that is also new stuff with women. Like there's a new Dom and Mia scene. There's the new Mia and Letty scene. Mm-hmm. There's a new Ramsey scene with Tej. Like there's some stuff with Roman or whatever, but like 3 or 4 or 5 of those minutes are like giving another one of these women more time to shine. And in a movie that already does that pretty well, to go even further is, I think, a nice thing that we did not mention in the top half.
Yeah, that's really cool. But then to flip it on the other way, like, really, those are the scenes they cut? They cut all the scenes with the women? Just to be that person?
No, I was thinking it when he was saying it, too, because then you're like, oh, well, look, they just cut all of the scenes that we gave to the women as extra scenes, yes.
Right. They also cut a lot of Roman, too, which is also fine. I don't know. But yeah, like, I think their heart was in the right place, right? It's just... Yeah. It's tough when the movie's this long.
I think Heather did a good job of explaining it, too, with so many characters, and I wasn't even factoring in the flashback characters, but, we've had problems where we're like, you and I have talked before that, like, the family just gets too big, right? Yep. Like, there's just too many people to give everyone their appropriate amount of screen time. And for them to have, introduce 3 pretty much new main characters, right? You get like Otto, Jacob, and Elle, and Han comes back. So 3 or 4.
Plus Buddy too, if you're gonna
plus
Otto, Buddy too,
and then all the flashback characters, which I mean, granted they're the same ones, but you give them screen time. Like I don't feel like anybody got slighted here, and it didn't feel like the scale was too big, right? Like it didn't get like lost in character jumble.
I was gonna say because everyone's already tied to another character that you're familiar with, right? It's not like that's what it's point. Like. Oh, Jacob is Mia and Dom's brother. Okay. Michael Rooker's character, whose name I forgot, but like, Buddy. You know what I mean? Like they're all, and Elle is tied to Han. Like they're all tied to someone we already know and is already part of the family. So they're just an extension of that relationship we already have, which I think makes it more familiar. It's not like, oh, we're dropping you in a new location and here's 5 new characters you have to get to know.
Yep.
It's not first day of school. This is just a new class.
I'm actually thinking back to other movies, and, since they rebooted in 4, I would say the closest that they've come to that is like 6 when they have all of Owen Shaw's team, but also that is kind of just one thing, but also they're all mirrors of, like, you don't need to learn all of them. It's like, oh, that's their Roman, that's their Dom, that's their Brian or whatever. And so, like, it kind of works, but I think to that point that they've been pretty good at not doing that often after they did that a lot early on, right? But they're like, okay, once we sort of like, oh, we got a lot of people, like, a lot of tools in our arsenal right now. Let's kind of slow down a little bit, and they bring in like 1 or 2 people here. But I think that's a really good point about tying them to people that we already know, and like giving them context, right?
I agree. It makes it easier for sure.
It makes it so, like even on the most like shallow level, like, oh, that's Han's girl, right? Like you can just like put it quickly like that in your brain, and so that association helps immensely when it comes to things like, it's why things like your movies like Infinity War or Endgame, when you see like here's all the 20 characters coming together, well, they've all had their own movie where they got to be introduced, and so so long as you've been following along, it's fine. But if this was someone's first Fast and Furious movie ever, I could easily see it being overwhelming.
Oh sure,
definitely.
Sure. Yeah. If you follow along, which is the key phrase, both this franchise and the Avengers, like the MCU, do a better job, I think, than most franchises in terms of like...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Building things up. Because a lot, I'm watching the Friday the 13th movies now, and like it's 30 years ago or whatever, but like each movie is basically an entire new cast of characters because they all wind up dead, essentially, right? And so like that's a different thing altogether, but they're not even trying to do this. Like they might have one character carry over or whatever, But there's so much like foundational work that you need to do just to have things make sense.
Yeah.
And even if it's not done like really well, the fact that it's done well at all, that like the casual fan who's like seen some of the movies can like follow along, it's like, oh, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Other than it being too long and just Dom and Vin in general, what did you not like about this movie? What do you think could have been better? Given what this movie is, what this movie has to do and everything, what would you have changed if you were in terms of, you know, structurally or narratively or plot-wise or whatever? Is there anything
down on
glaring
some of the meta
here?
stuff, would you have? Or...
Yeah, I think the meta-ness got a little too heavy-handed for me. And, you know, I'm speaking as someone who worked on Deadpool comics, which, you know, take that as you will.
Sure.
Oh my God, we can't die. Stuff at the beginning with the minefield and like everything else going on was fun and cute.
Okay.
It got rubbed on a little thick at the end with the rocket stuff in space, where like they can survive and all of that is fine. Just don't like tell us you survived without it. You know what I mean? Like, no, we witnessed you guys surviving and nothing bad happened. You don't need to then bring it up again that like, see, nothing bad can happen. It's like we're in a movie, you know?
I mean, it's the Twitter meme. It's like, tell us you're invincible without telling us you're invincible. It's like,
Right.
oh, they went to space and came back without dying. It's like, we don't have to put a hat on a hat, right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And like, you know, Charlize Theron's monologue, which I think she delivered as best she possibly could. But her whole monologue of like, oh, if we were in a movie, this would be the part where the heroes, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to die. Like, I think it's like when you're writing it, you think you're being clever, but like in reality, like it's not, it's just cheesy.
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize Academy Award winner.
Yes,
Charlize
yes,
Theron. Her character specifically, while we're on the topic, I feel like we haven't talked about Cypher in a couple of these episodes. Like, she is the biggest problem I have with these movies now, because in 8, I wasn't crazy about her. And I talked about this before, and then 9, when she's coming back, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm on board. But like now, it's just, again, like what they're giving her to do, how they're using her character. Clearly, she's going to come back again. But like, come on, like, give me something.
Oh,
She's so cool and intimidating, and like
I think the performance she's giving is interesting and has a lot of nuance, but they give her nothing.
But I always argue that that's like part of the character, that she's like mysterious. But we need like, at this point, we need Cypher flashbacks, right? Like we need like little girl Cypher flashbacks.
Just something with depth. Like she's just, I don't know, like she feels, you know how there's Manic Pixie Dream Girl, right? Like she feels like the supervillain version of that, where it's all surface level and there's no depth. Like, what is she, like, she's smart and she knows she's smarter than everyone else, and so she wants to just be smart and prove to the world how smart she is. Like it's literally that. That is literally her character.
what did you think of her haircut here? Step up or step down from the white girl braids?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. I hated the Gone with 60 Seconds look. It didn't work for Angelina, and it certainly doesn't work for Charlize.
I think Angelina pulled it off better than, I mean, they're both beautiful women that, you know, could probably rock most hairstyles. I think it worked better for Sway than Cypher, but it's not a good look.
They knew it wasn't a good look, but it was more of like an homage to Sway in Gone in 60 Seconds. So in that case, I'm like, I'm not as mad about it as I would be if it was like an actual choice for a character, because it's like, okay, we know what you're doing, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, like, I'm with you, Joey. I think Charlize is amazing, and I would watch anything with her in it. But yeah, give her something, man. No, you're a puppet with a hand up its ass. Like, really?
How'd you like the Star Wars references?
I liked the whole, like, oh, he's a terrorist who thinks he's Luke Skywalker. You know, like, I like all of that, and I liked where they were going with it. I just, again, I wish it had a bigger impact than just, no, this is a clever little punchline.
So here's a question that we've talked about that I think you might have possibly an interesting perspective on, that in Hobbs and Shaw, if you'll remember, which I assume you will not, so I'm going to recap it anyway.
Okay.
They make like 3 or 4 different references throughout the movie peppered about Game of Thrones. And then, because that was in the height of like the final season or whatever, and they're like, we need to talk about Game of Thrones because everybody's talking about Game of Thrones. And then here, there's like 3 or 4 Star Wars references. And I do think that those are 2 things that are going to stick around culturally forever for, you know, for the foreseeable future. Obviously, Star Wars has been around much longer than Game of Thrones. But do you think one did it better than the other? Is that the kind of thing that you mind in general when like pop culture references other pop culture that is unconnected, other than like, hey, we watched those same movies? Like, what's your take on like that? I guess that's another element of the meta thing you were saying before.
Yeah, I think it's something actually I encounter a lot of in my day job, because writers like when Hamilton was the thing.
Yes.
I like every comic writer was writing a Hamilton reference. Like I got like 6 scripts within 1 month that had like a Hamilton reference, and like I love Hamilton, don't get me wrong, but really, like because like by the time these things come out, like you don't know if this is going to be a thing anymore.
It's going to be kind of dated. Yeah,
and like Star Wars I don't mind, because Star Wars has been around for like going on 50 years.
Yep.
Like this is very much ingrained in our culture. This is a staple. It's not going away. Game of Thrones, I think, is close to that. I don't think I mind it, because again, it's something that has been around for a decade. But we'll get things where like I've had things where people will like specifically reference like BoJack Horseman or like Family Guy or something, and I'm just like, I don't know, I feel like that's a little too, it takes me out of what's going on,
because it firmly dates this thing into, if not a year, but like an era, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if it's a cultural staple, if it's a classic, like James Bond, not going away. It's been around for 50 years. It's going to be around for,
good point.
50 more. It's not going away. That Batman, you want to reference Batman, Spider-Man, any of that stuff. They're going on a century now, I think you just have to be mindful of what you choose, and then beyond that, you have to be mindful of how many you do within, the film as a whole. Habs and Shot was like a self-aware thing where they're doing it a couple times and they know they're doing it a couple times, and so that's part of the joke. But like it's a thing even in Star Wars, working in Star Wars comics, they don't let us quote the movies, or you get like one movie quote. You can't say, oh, I've got a bad feeling about this and it's a trap. And you can't say all of that stuff within the same 20-page comic, because then it's too self-aware.
Right. Yeah,
makes sense.
And I'm reading right now, because I'm rewatching all of David Lynch's movies, and I'm reading this book of interviews he gave this guy, and they talk about Wild at Heart, because Wild at Heart multiple times references The Wizard of Oz. The interviewer asked him, like, what is this about? And David Lynch just likes Wizard of Oz, but he sees Sailor and Lula, the main characters, Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, as like characters who could embody, so passionately believe in a fairy tale, and could kind of make that real, like use that as a driving force for them. So then later in the movie, when they're at this like random kind of sketchy place and another dude references Toto, it like gets, and this is, I didn't pick up on this, but this is David Lynch's explanation, which makes sense. He's just doing his own thing, but like he's tapping into a wavelength that they like kind of believe in, and like it kind of shakes them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I can see that, like, I think that's kind of a fascinating way to look at it regardless. But I think here, Otto earlier in the movie is like, get me a freaking X-Wing or whatever, right? Yeah. And then like later, a couple scenes later, that's when he has the conversation with Charlize, I think. And that's when they're like, I'm Luke freaking Skywalker. And she's like, no, you're Yoda. But Otto's not our main character. Like if somehow, like if Dom had like compared all this to like, he's the Han Solo or whatever. And then someone he meets is like, oh yeah, but no, you're Yoda. Like if it's somebody else, but like, I don't give a shit about Otto. Like it becomes like Otto's narrative, which is like, who cares?
Yeah, there's that. But also if they made it part of Otto's narrative much earlier, rather than just a casual throwaway, get me an X-Wing. Like if it's a thing where like, he is calling his team like the Stormtroopers or Death Star, like if part of his core identity is that he, whatever, is a Star Wars super fan, and in some way, shape, or form, or truly views himself as what he's doing as the Rebel Alliance, and they're out to, do whatever, blah, 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 blah. If that's something that we see as his core identity right from go, right? And then later, Charlize is just like, you're not Luke, you're Yoda, with a hand up his ass. Like, then it works.
Then it hits. Yeah, it's way better that way, actually.
But this is just like a weird opportunity. Like this strikes me as like the writer had this idea for all Yoda. People think Yoda's so cool, but he's just a puppet with a hand up his ass, right? That
and then you write the joke around it.
Exactly. Like it felt to me like this is something that they thought was clever and wanted a spot to put it, and this was the spot to put it.
Yeah, which is understandable, but also unfortunate, right?
Yes.
Like it's just, I get what you're doing, but I don't know.
That was like the first writing thing that we have said, because like a lot of ways that I pitch this to people that haven't seen it yet that are fans of Fast and Furious is like, I don't think that there's anything that I could have done better in this movie. Heather, that was like the first thing I heard that I was like, that would have worked way better.
Well, this is my job.
I know. I was just saying, but it's like it was
literally what I get paid to do. So thank you.
You're welcome. It was like that was really like, oh yeah, dude. Like we could have really like that would have really hit much better and wouldn't have just seemed like a throwaway joke if we would have just like made Otto a Star Wars fan from the jump.
But like also he's not on screen enough to like really do that.
That's true.
Well, you have this whole sequence, right, where you go into his embassy in his country in his house, like literally just have Star Wars shit here. Oh, you like my collection? Oh, this, be a fucking rich snobby prick. Right? Like, Dom can laugh at the stuff, whatever you want to do. But there's so much you can do visually without saying anything that telegraphs to the viewer. And like, again, this just felt like, I think this is funny and I'm going to put it in there.
Yep.
Joe, do you have any other thoughts, any other notes that we did not cover yesterday on the...
No, I was paying attention a lot to the new scenes when I was watching it this time. So like that's what I was just trying to keep track of in my brain and trying to figure out, like we said to Wes today in our chat, whether or not the scenes were actually new or not new, or if there was a new line or not. So I was mostly focused on that.
I mean, Heather, you know that you picked up on every subtle minor difference between the movie that you saw 2.5 months ago. Once, right?
Yes, totally. I kept like second guessing myself throughout. I was like, is this a new? I don't know. Is this? I don't know. And then I stopped caring. So
much better way to do it. But like even us that have seen it like 4 or 5 times in a row now since it came out, like on a consistent basis, when we were watching the director's cut, I just kept being like, is that a new line? I can't tell. Like I remember the next one, but not this one. So there was a lot of like extended scenes that were happening. So
yeah, I figured it was that. I figured it was like, oh, this moment is just longer. Oh, we're gonna like see 3 more cards blow up instead of 2.
I don't even think it was action stuff. At least Joey and I didn't catch new action stuff.
Because I already, even in all the movies, in this one already too, like I kind of not zone out of the action, but I'm not hyper aware of the action. But here, like Letty and Mia going to Han's garage was new.
Yeah.
That was new. I thought that was new.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better.
When Dom calls Mia to pick up the kid at the beginning of the movie, that's new. And then there's like longer versions of like the flashback is a little bit longer. There's a longer thing where Jacob is referencing like past villains. But like there's 2, I think there's really kind of 2.
Dom
and also
Baby
in the
Brian.
Yeah, Dom calls Baby Brian is new, and then Roman find that room full of cash is new too. Like there's some stuff there in the hideout, but
which I think is the GIF that you posted. By the
way. Yeah. That was another one that I was like, I'm pretty sure this is new too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I feel better then. I actually did.
You caught the main new scenes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. See, I pay attention.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to mention? Anything else you want to comment on? Anything you loved or hated or anything in between? Or do you want to play the Twitter game?
No, the only other thing that like drives me mad with this movie, and like if I really wanted to frustrate myself, I would do another viewing and actually chart this, but I won't because it would only be upsetting, is all the electromagnet stuff where the physics clearly is not consistent throughout the film.
So this is something that is something that I really want to talk about upon this watch. There's a moment where Jacob is driving on the other side of a building, and they have the truck and Ramsey's driving, and they turn up the magnet and Jacob's car goes through the building. Immediately, like, following that in the next action sequence, they're like, we're going to use the magnets. They drive by a building, turn up the magnet, everything in the building comes out of the building.
Right. Yep.
Well, also clearly none of the people have any piercings or are wearing any jewelry whatsoever.
No.
In this, right? Because there'd be missing fingers. But also, I love how they can just aim the magnet and it gets precisely the card that they want, and none of the other ones just parked on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
Like...
or when they're messing with Roman. We talked about all this before, because like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, that's cool, just don't think about it even a little bit. But when they turn it up so that Roman's spoon that he's eating out of the bowl or whatever goes, but like the rest of the room is untouched, it's like, well, how is
hard drives? Yeah, anything.
Nothing.
His earrings.
Nothing.
He has earrings, right?
I know. Yeah, he has those big diamond studs. Nothing.
Well, they do say that
Silver doesn't.
is not magnetic. That Tej is buying knockoff shit or whatever, right? So
Yeah. And it drove me insane in the movie theater. And then they got to the scene, in the car with that, and I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Did you like the use of magnets as the crux of their super weaponry?
I like the idea of it. I think the idea is really cool, and I wish that it was just a little bit more consistent with the physics, and they had to actually that became an obstacle for them. I wish that was a thing that oh, we can't control this, or whatever, but everyone is vulnerable. Any civilian is just vulnerable to be killed in this universe, and no one cares.
Their earlobes ripped off, not killed, but just earlobes ripped to shreds.
Yes.
But they've also said, and this is something that we talked about a little bit too, is that they reference that this is technology from the future.
They can time travel too. Then?
Well, I think they're alluding to they're leaving that door open. If they want to take that route, they
Aliens.
can. They're not saying that it is, but it's tech that shouldn't exist for 50 years.
Yeah.
Cool. It still physically doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but again, who cares? It's
Super
fine.
magnets.
Me, I care. Literally.
Super magnets.
I guess so. All right, let's play the Twitter game, aka Boy Do We Have a Podcast.
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Come and check out our show. Yeah.
For you, this is where we go on the Bird app, find any tweet from anybody who might be interested in the podcast, and tweet at them. Before we do this episode's tweets, let's review last time where we had Aaron Newworth on talking about Tokyo Drift.
Okay.
I found D at Deandra_V. Okay, so in Fast and Furious, the fourth movie, Mia literally says, how do you say goodbye to your only brother? Now in F9, they have another brother. I really hate continuity errors. Which, Heather, I feel like you and D are kindred souls. Ooh. We hate continuity errors too, I said, but we love finding them and talking about them forever. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Joe, you found a quote tweet of that meme going around where the guy is talking to the girl at the club and she's very clearly not into it.
Ooh, I love that meme.
The thing said, okay, so Tokyo Drift actually takes place between F6 and F7. At first, we don't know if he T-boned Han. Then at the end of F6, we saw his Deckard Shaw, Owen Shaw's brother, out for revenge. And then in F9, and we said, this is literally us. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
I love it.
Nothing. Should have gotten something, but no.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You get my Joe.
Thank you.
Aaron found Ellen DeGeneres at the Ellen Show tonight. Find out where Vin Diesel put his pies on hashtag Game of Games. We said, find out where Vin Diesel put his cars in Fast and Furious. Also, boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Nothing. But I have a tweet today. Heather has a tweet. Joe, I'm sure you're finding one, but Heather, please hit us with yours first.
Yes.
And I have the accoutrement that you want me to add.
Sweet. So mine is from a while ago, so hopefully people will still interact with it, but it's from...
There's no rhyme or reason for why this game does or doesn't work, so it's all equally unlikely.
Who knows?
So please go ahead.
But it's from Todd Munson at The Munson. Don't know why they called it F9, the Fast Saga, when F9, they go to fucking space, was sitting right there. And then he has a picture of Ronan and Tej.
That's a good one. I really like just they go to fucking space was right there.
And so my response is just say Fast and Furious 10 to Infinity and Beyond with a gif of Buzz and Woody flying.
Oh.
Yes, and then boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Perfect.
Love it. So now I found Ross Miller at Ross T. Miller, and there's no text, it's just 3 pictures. And it's the cover of F9.
Okay.
And then there's a zoomed in picture that just says the director's cut plus original film. And then the third picture is the meme of Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite, with the subtitle just says, to me, that's cinema. I was like, boy, do we have a podcast for you? And I'm putting the parentheses, and Bong Joon-ho, maybe?
Perfect.
Because I found that from somebody else that I saw someone replied to him, and it just said Marty getting ready to watch the director's cut of F9, and it's just him with 3D glasses on. So Scorsese, because Scorsese's all about the cinema. Okay, Joe, you sent me yours. Please hit us with it.
It's from Beautiful City at Beautiful City. Should I use the cash back I've gotten on my Capital One card the last few months to buy the F9 director's cut on Blu-ray?
Oh my god.
We
Well, she also responds and says, I'm going to buy it anyway, but do I use the free money or do I save the free money?
Yes. But
Use
we're
the
just
free
replying to
money.
the first one. We're using the first one. We love credit card rewards and the director's cut of F9. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Because I do love both of those things so much.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that is a truly wild mashup of things that I never thought would cross screens, but
I'm all about the credit card rewards. So.
you are all about the credit cards. No trouble.
Oh my
No trouble.
goodness.
But Heather, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for buying this movie, for now
Thank you for
paying
watching it with us.
$20
Of
twice for
course.
watching it with us and joining us once again. What would you like people, what's going on? Because you haven't been on in a little while. What has been going on in your world? New comics? What do you want people to find out about?
Yeah, so I'm still making comics, a lot of them, and you should still buy them and read them. High Republic Adventures and Star Wars Adventures from IDW are out now. Cool. Pick them up, as well as we literally just sent to print the first trade collection of Time Before Time from Image, which is a cool time travel gang crime comic that you can get. And issues 1 through 5 are on sale now, but the whole collection will be on sale next month. So definitely check that out.
Very, very, very cool. Well, thank you once again for joining us. You now have a reprieve until
the new one comes out. You have to go with us, or Hobbs and Shaw 2, or whatever.
Oh, Hobbs and Shaw 2. I am there.
Perfect. See, so whatever the next one comes out, because I think that something that we undersell actually is going with your crew of friends.
Yes.
That you've watched the movies with is a much different experience
yes.
than you just watching the movie. Like, it's so much fun to watch them with you guys, next to you, looking down the row as they mention Star Wars things at you. Those kind of things make it exponentially more fun for me. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
100%.
Yeah, but officially, Heather, sometime after April 7th, 2023, you'll be coming back to talk about F10. Like Joe said, though, there might be something in between now and then, because that's a lot of runway between Fast and Furious movies,
the world's
even though the
longest
pandemic
runway?
messing things up, right? Like, I know that like things are weird, but we can't have like 9 Marvel movies between Fast and Furious movies. Like, I will not abide that.
That's true. That's true. Because we do have like a Marvel movie coming out like every 2 months for like the next like year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
For the next decade, let's be real.
That's true. That's true.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Until we all get burnt out and we're like, got to run Kevin Feige out of town or something.
But Shang-Chi was so good.
Yes.
It was.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
It was so good.
You know what also is so good? Our movie next week, a movie I've never seen, but as a patron pick, our newest patron who gets the voting rights, Michael McGann, picked, I'm pretty sure, I did a little bit of research, I can't think of one, unless I'm missing it somehow. I think this is our first ever Lindsay Lohan film on the network.
Oh my God, what movie?
Herbie Fully Loaded.
Yes!
I'm excited. I remember Herbie the Love Bug, like, the show, right? It was a TV show when I was a kid. But it was, like, before even I was a kid. It was, like, in the 70s or something, right?
I think so. I know that I don't know what it is. I know that Herbie the Love Bug is a thing.
It was kind of like Knight Rider. Like, the car could kind of, like, it was, like, kind of had its own mind.
Okay. Yeah, this is like she's a Volkswagen Bug that also wants to be a NASCAR racer. Maybe it's a sentient car. I don't know. It's available to stream on HBO Max. I'm excited because it's written, at least partially, well, at least, I don't know, some version of the credit, to Thomas Lennon and Ben Garant, who have written, they're from Reno 911 and a bunch of different things. So it's very funny. So
cool.
I don't know that this movie has the best reputation. I've never seen it, but I'm excited for that alone. So Herbie Fully Loaded coming at you next Tuesday on Too Fast, Too Forever. So, and also, like I said in the intro, we don't have F9 again for 8 more weeks or something. So we had a little bit of a reprieve before we come back to this movie. And then, back to our regularly scheduled once every 4 or 5 months or whatever for it.
Exactly.
But we have completed officially the mini F9 gauntlet, Joe, doing it 5 times since the end of June. Which...
You know what? And as much as, like, around time 4, we were like, the director's cut really gave it new life. And, like...
It did. It really did.
It made it not as bad. I think if we were to watch the regular one again, I would have been like, okay, 5 was too many times. But with the director's cut coming out, I was like, you know what? That was about the right amount of times. It's a good amount of
genuinely, I have a mixed track record on this podcast about scheduling. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Sometimes I'm just like, why didn't I not think to do this with that?
Yeah.
I did not mess with it at all. Like, it just organically came up that the day after it came out on digital was the day we were recording this. So, like, it just...
Yes.
I would have rescheduled things because I really wanted to talk about this specifically, but, like, I'm glad that the timing worked out because
Perfectly.
fate, et cetera, right?
One
So-
might call it the fate of the furious.
Oh.
Whoa. I don't know why I didn't call it the fate of they go right to fucking space. For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFast2Forever, or at TooFast2Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFast2Forever.com and our store at TooFast2Forever.shop. Come back next week for Herbie Fully Loaded. Check out all, 10 or 11 episodes that Heather's been on. We had a
whole lot.
debrief and we had an interview, so lots of Heather on here. Go check out her comics and everything that she mentioned before. Lots of fun stuff to do. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Heather Antos, and we'll tell you all about it
When we see